In this video, we're going to be going over how to web scrape using Python for complete beginners. And you can already see a glimpse of what our code is going to look like. We can see what our data set will look like. We're also going to do some very basic analysis, as you can see right here. And if we jump over to Wikipedia, we can see the data set we're going to be attempting to pull in. It's basically just a list of some of the all-time scoring leaders in the NBA. So let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial. Again, this will be a great lesson if you're a complete beginner on how to web scrape using Python. So let's go ahead and jump over to a completely new Jupyter Notebook. This is a great tool you can use for data analysis. And so the first thing that we are going to do is we'll go ahead and come up here and title our Jupyter Notebook. Go ahead and give it whatever you want. I'm just going to type in web scraping for beginners. So I'll go ahead and rename that. And now we need to import our libraries. And there's only going to be two that we need. We're going to need to import requests. So I'll go ahead and type that in, and then we need to import pandas as PD, which is a great data analysis library. So we'll go ahead and type that in as PD. And so let's go ahead and run this code. I'll hit enter. Whenever you see this dot right there, it means the code is running, and it looks like it's worked properly. So the next thing we need to do is we need to get our data set. So let's go ahead and jump over to Wikipedia. And while you can't see up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the URL. So I'm going to do Command C since I'm on Mac, and we'll jump back over to our Jupyter Notebook. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type out URL. We're going to do equals, and in quotations, I'm just going to paste that entire URL right here. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump down, and we're going to make a variable called page. And this is where we're going to use the import request library that we just pulled in. So I'm going to do page is equal to requests. And then we're going to do .get, and then we're going to put in URL. And again, the URL is the variable where we just plugged in our URL right here, as you can see. So let's go ahead and do Command Enter, and you can see it ran really quick. That's something really cool about Python. So now let's go ahead and make another variable, and we will title this tables. And essentially what we're going to do now is we're going to use the pandas read function. So I'm going to do equals pd.read underscore HTML. And what we're going to do is we're going to type in page.text. And essentially this is almost our web scraping function that we're pulling in right here. So let's go ahead and run this. But now we have done this and we want to be able to visualize what we just pulled in. So let's go ahead and create a new variable called scoring table. And I will make this equal to the variable we just made up here, tables, but then we want to pull in the first table only. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in a 1 right here. So once I do that, you can see we have a new variable called scoring table where it's only pulling in the first table, which if we jump back over to Wikipedia, it should be this table here, but now we want to be able to see that. So there's a few different ways we could do this, but basically let's just go ahead and type in print and then type in scoring table and hit enter. And you can see now we've been able to import this data set into our Jupyter Notebook. You can see right here, we have a whole lot going on, obviously. So let's go ahead and keep moving forward with this data. We'll come down here, and what we're going to do now is create our data frame. So let's go ahead and type in scoring underscore df, and we'll do equals pd dot data frame, and that's how we're going to create our data frame. And now we just want to make our scoring table that data frame. So I'll go ahead and hit enter right here, and let's go ahead and visualize this. And there's a few different ways we could do this. Let's just go ahead and start by typing in print scoring df and hit enter. And so you can see again right here, but what we can do is if we come down here, we can do scoring underscore data frame dot head, and let's say we just want to see the first 50. So the head function is going to allow us just to see the beginning, and we can plug in 50 right here, so we can see the first 50 rows essentially, and you can see the index right here. And so now this is starting to look more like a data set that we can begin to analyze. So our next step is, now that we have our data set, we basically web scraped it into our Jupyter Notebook. Let's go ahead and do some basic analysis. So we can see the data we have right here. We have their rank, we have the player, the positions, the teams that they played for, and the years, their total points, games played, points per game, field goals made, 3-point field goals made, and the free throws that they made as well. Let's say we want to see an entirely new column and we want to see how many field goals per game that they typically made. Well, we can easily do that using pandas. So if we come down here, what we are going to do is we are going to create an entirely new column. And to do that, let's go ahead and type in scoring underscore data frame. And in this right here is where we're going to name our new column. So depending on what you want to name it, I'm going to go ahead and name it field goals per game. And now we need to create what this is actually going to be. So again, what we can do, we can basically pull this from the data that we currently have. So I'm going to go ahead and show you. Let's go ahead and do scoring underscore data frame once again. And using, let's see, where is it? Using the field goals made column, we should be able to start to pull in some of the data that we need. Now it's important that we type this in exactly how it looks here on the column. So in quotations, I'm going to go ahead and type in field goals made right here. So that's the first thing that we're going to need. If we want to see our field goals per game, then we're going to need the total amount of games played as well. So we'll come over here and we will divide this by, again, we'll do scoring underscore data frame. And we will open this up, and now we want to pull in our games played column. So we'll type in games played right here. Again, it's important that even the punctuation and the capitalization is the same as the column right here. But now basically we should be able to pull in this data set with an entirely new column. So I'll go ahead and hit enter right here. Now let's just go ahead and type out scoring underscore df right here and hit enter. And would you look at that right here, we have an entirely new column with our field goals made. So that is very cool. We've already been able to web scrape with just a few lines of code and do a little bit of analysis as well. So we can see it looks like Wilt Chamberlain scored a lot of field goals per game. If we scroll down, we can continue to see how much all of these other players scored when it comes to field goals per game. But we can go ahead and take this a little bit of a step further. So let's go ahead and sort these values, and we can do that pretty easily again using pandas. If we come down here, we'll type in scoring underscore df and do equals. We'll do scoring underscore df dot sort underscore values. It's a very useful function right there. And what we can do is we want to sort by field goals per game again. So I'll go ahead and type in field goals per game. And now what we're going to do is we will come outside of this quotations, we'll add a comma, and we're going to type out ascending equals, and we can put either true or false right here. I'm going to go ahead and plug in false, and I'll show you exactly what that does. We'll come down here, and let's go ahead and let's just look at the top 10 people. So let's do top underscore scoring, and we'll do equals scoring underscore df, and we just want to look at the first 10 people. Okay, so I jumped forward and made a slight punctuation error, but you can see essentially here it is the exact same code. So go ahead and make sure your lines up with this. But again, all we did was sort our values and did ascending false. We're using the dataframe.head function to pull in just the first 10 items on this data frame. So if we come down here and do top underscore scoring and hit enter, if we scroll down here, we can now see we have an entirely new data frame. And essentially, again, all we did was pull in the top 10 people when it comes to field goals made, and it's already sorted automatically for us. So we can see it looks like Wilt Chamberlain scored the most field goals per game out of our entire data set. Now we can take this just one more step further if we want to and go ahead and kind of create a little bit of a visualization so we can see the difference in these players just a little bit better. So what we can do is if we come down here, we can import one more library. Let's go ahead and import matplot lib.pyplot, and we will hit enter. And now we're going to create our visualization. So what we're going to do is, again, we'll use that top scoring data frame that we just created, and we'll do dot plot. And now we're going to go ahead and plug in our variables. And for X, we want that to be equal to the player. So if we scroll up right here, you can see we want that to be our player. We'll come back down here, and outside of that, now we need to plug in Y. And we will make that equal to our field goals per game. And now we need to indicate what kind of chart we want. So we'll do equals kind is equal to, and let's go ahead and do a bar chart for this scenario. And now we can go ahead and add just a couple of things to optimize this chart. We can do plot, and we can add an X label just to make this chart look a little bit cleaner. And so for the label, we just want that to say players. And we can do the same thing for our Y label. So do plot.y label, and we can do field goals per game. And we can go ahead and add one more thing if we want, and we can easily add a plot.title. So go ahead and title this whatever you want. Let's just go ahead and also name this player field goals per game. And okay, looks like we actually made a slight error, and I already know what this is. We clearly forgot to do import matplotlib as plyplot as plt, so we can go ahead and make that adjustment. We'll run that line of code again. We can come here and hit enter, and now our chart is looking exactly how we want it. You can see we have our title right here, field goals per game label, and our players label. And we already have this like we wanted. We've already sorted this in the correct order, so we can see Wilt Chamberlain coming in at around 12. Next is Michael Jordan, and you can see the rest of this right here. So with that being said, we just did a complete web scraping of data into our Jupyter Notebook. We did some basic analysis using pandas, and if we scroll down here, we even used matplotlib.pyplot to create a data visualization for our data set. So we just did some really great in-depth analysis with just a few lines of code, and that just goes to show you the power of Python and web scraping using Python. So there you go, that is how you can web scrape and analyze data in Python for beginners. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. So with that being said, I will see you next time.